President Trump recently unveiled his new budget, and even though admittedly I probably wouldn't be satisfied with anything he proposed, this budget is even more cruel and immoral than I could have anticipated. So according to Common Dreams, Meals on Wheels, Amtrak, teacher training, after-school and summer educational programs, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Appalachian Regional Commission, the National Institutes of Health, the Environmental Protection Agency, all these initiatives and agencies, plus many more, face cuts or wholesale elimination under President Donald Trump's proposed, quote, skinny budget, officially unveiled Thursday. Meanwhile, the blueprint calls for increases in military spending, border and immigration enforcement, and money for charter and private schools. In fact, warned Diane Yentl, head of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, Trump's budget would have a devastating impact on millions of the lowest-income people across the country. As expected, the proposal would cut overall funding for the Department of Housing and Urban Development by 13%, or $6.2 billion compared to 2016 levels, resulting in the most severe cut to HUD since President Reagan dramatically reduced funding in the early 1980s. Now, the amount of programs and agencies he's cutting funding to, you can't count on your hands or your toes. I mean, there's just so many. Now, to give you an idea here, Capacity Building for Community Development and Affordable Housing and Neighborhood Reinvestment Corporation, both of these programs provide housing assistance to low-income families, and he is cutting their funding. The Chemical Safety Board, this is a board that investigates industrial chemical accidents, also getting their funding cut. Some other examples here: United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. It coordinates federal response to homelessness. Targeted Airshed Grants provides grants for air pollution control. Senior Community Service Employment Program. This is a program that funds job training for low-income unemployed seniors. Weatherization Assistance Program. This is a program that provides grants for weatherizing low-income homes. All of these programs and agencies are getting their funding cut significantly. Like, these are not small cuts. These are very substantial cuts. So to basically give you the summary here, what it boils down to is anything that will lead to killing people or kicking people out of the country, like war and enforcing of immigration laws, well then, there's going to be a lot of funding for that, extra funding for that, in fact. But if it comes to helping out the poor and the disadvantaged, well then, the funding for these agencies or programs are being cut significantly. Now, to give you one example here, so he's going to be cutting the Department of Labor's funding by a fifth. So Heidi Sherholz of the Economic Policy Institute stated, if you care about U.S. workers, it makes no sense to cut a fifth of the budget of the key agency that protects workers from being killed on the job, that protects their pay and benefits, that helps them get retrained after job loss, and provides unemployment benefits if they can't find a job. Working people deserve to work in a safe environment and get paid the wages and overtime they are owed. Without a fully functioning Department of Labor, workers will not have recourse when taken advantage of by unscrupulous employers, and employers who do want to follow the law will not have the assistance they need to comply. So, I mean, this proposal makes me so angry. So angry. This is just cruel. I don't know how else to describe it. This is a very cruel budget proposal that will screw over the middle class, the poor, the disadvantaged, basically everyone who's not a multinational corporation or militarist. You're going to get screwed over. So, Donald Trump is just shameless. He has absolutely no shame. And I want to share what Bernie Sanders said, because he actually slammed this budget and he articulated exactly what I'm feeling. He states President Trump's budget is morally obscene and bad economic policy. It will cause devastating pain to the very people Trump promised to help during the campaign. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, when 43 million Americans are living in poverty and half of the older Americans have no retirement savings, we should not slash programs that senior citizens, children, and the working people rely on in order to provide a massive increase in spending to the military-industrial complex. Trump's priorities are exactly opposite of where we should be heading as a nation. To just show no regard, to even show contempt to the poor, to show that you care more about killing people in foreign countries, to show that you care more about kicking people out of the country than helping the most disadvantaged people in the country. We're fucked as a country. We're not a compassionate society. So, I mean, to anyone who is part of the working class who voted for Donald Trump, I feel really horrible for you. I mean, he really pulled the wool over your eyes. He duped you. And he's playing you for a fool. And as he decides to basically make the largest cuts to these programs and agencies that we've seen in a generation, who will actually call him out? in government. Will any Democrats stand up? Bernie Sanders is calling them out, but I mean, this is a disgrace. What Democrats need to do is go on every single news show, on cable news, and talk about these specific cuts and how they're going to impact the American people. I mean, I haven't even gone through all of them on here. There's more agencies and programs that he's cutting, but I just can't go through all of them. He's basically cutting everything with the exception of military spending and immigration enforcement. It's just absurd to me. It's just downright immoral.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.